Okay, and I think we're live. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's presentation workshop. So, today's workshop is actually hosted by our very distinguished guest, Ms. Joyce Tay from StartupX. Ms. Joyce is actually the Chief Strategy Officer at StartupX, and which is an innovation consultancy that she co-founded. She was formerly the program head for Block 71, Singapore and Indonesia, and prior to that, she actually kickstarted a few startups as well. She was part of Singapore's national broadcasters' first venture builder, and also launched a digital venture for a financial institution as well. So she has a very tenured background in this field of startups. In 2018, Joyce launched StartupX with her partners, following a decade of growing one of Singapore's largest startup communities in Southeast Asia. And she has developed and launched accelerators in the sustainability, arts, and impact space across Southeast Asia, including HyperX, the world's first sustainability hack accelerator co-developed with Temasek. With that being said, I'd like to hand over the time to Joyce to run through some basics of pitching and presentation, and hopefully our audience today can take away more tips and tricks that they can leverage in the preliminaries to their advantage. So let me stop sharing at this point, and Joyce, I'll hand over the floor to you. Let's give a warm round of applause to Joyce.
Thanks, Benson. Thanks. Oh, wow. So cute. Okay. Very interesting. Thanks so much for the introduction. And hello, everyone. So I'm Joyce. I'm just going to quickly bring up my slides. I hope you guys can see them. So couple of, I think it was actually quite a while back when I met with Benson and the whole team. And they asked me to workshop. And I think running workshop sessions is very interesting for me because hackathons are very close to my heart. I actually do run Startup Weekend. And so been running hackathons for I think almost 6 or 7 years. And it's always very exciting because you guys are really at the start of that journey, right, of ideating, coming out with something fantastic, and maybe further down the line, your idea could possibly change the world or change how people are actually behaving, or you know, how they live and how they work and how they play. So one very important aspect, right, I think is basically what I'm going to share today, which is how to do a really, really fantastic pitch. I have heard many pitches over the years. And I think it's just little things that you can do to tweak to make your pitch much better. I have a lot of slides to cover today. I'll try and be very brief, but I hope that there are some good takeaways that you can learn from for today. But okay, so just a quick introduction. I think Benson has already shared a lot about me. So that's awesome. I actually am the CSO at StartupX. I look after our accelerator programs and our innovation programs with our partners. I also run Startup Weekend Singapore. Do check it out. We are running something later this year. I used to be the program head for Block 71 Singapore and Indonesia. So we used to have a lot of startups that we take care of within these two regions. I also was a venture builder at MediaCorp long before venture building was actually popular. So this was really quite a while back, and we were trying to build a digital venture together with MediaCorp. I've also founded a couple of startups. Some did quite okay. Some have failed, obviously. Some of them have raised their round. So it's been a very interesting experience. I've been on all sides of the table. So I think on many levels, I can sort of, you know, still think back about how when I was first a founder, I wish that there were lessons that people could teach me. And I think this is a very important lesson, how to pitch well. So I hope you do some good takeaways today. Before this, I hope you'll be able to hear the sound. But this is one of the best pitches I've ever seen. I've never seen him in person, but I've watched this video many times. And whenever someone asks me what is a good pitch, I like to show them this example. So if there's no audio, please let me know.
I'm so stressed out trying to plan all of life's celebrations. I mean, I got little Susie's graduation. I got Ted's birthday party. And of course, football season is coming back. I want to plan a tailgating party for that. I wish there was one easy solution for me to order all my party supplies, just as easy as booking an Airbnb. Wait, there is. Party on Demand is your one-stop mobile party supply shop, delivering the party to you in 1 hour or less. We deliver the 3 essential ingredients you need to wow your guests and have an incredible, memorable party. We deliver food, talent, and decorations right to your door. Bam! We make it happen easily with our partnerships from Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Postmates, delivering that tantalizing food that's yummy, yummy in your tummy. In addition to that, our friends over at Amazon Prime are hooking it up with our crazy curated.
Yeah. So that is one of my favorite pitches ever. You can tell right from the get-go that person is super energetic. He delivered such a great pitch. People are so engaged with the thing that he's saying and sharing. And that, I could just go on and on, but there's a lot of great points about it. One of which is you realize that he starts off with so much energy. You can't help but, just pay attention to him throughout the whole time. The second thing is he conveys his entire pitch and idea right from the very beginning. He's able to relate with people, right? What is the pains of party planning? Doesn't matter whether you are planning a graduation party or a birthday party or whatever it is, he's there to help you solve that problem. He communicates it really well. One other thing is you realize that he almost never ever looks at his deck. So there's a huge screen behind him. There's a TV in front of him, that teleprompter that's telling him what's on his slide. He almost never looks at his slide. He's so familiar with what he's supposed to pitch that it just comes so naturally to him. He doesn't have to refer to slides and, read off the slides and so on. There are many little qualities, right, from that one video alone. You can go onto YouTube and search and watch the entire video. It's almost 5 minutes long. But how he carries himself, how he builds his whole narrative, how he presents his whole energy level and all that as he's running through his pitch. These are a lot of good points to learn. So in today's session, I hope I can share some of these good tips with you. At least you can take away a few and incorporate it into your pitch. Because I know 5 days from now, you're probably going to be doing your pitches to your judges. So I hope you can get ready for that. First thing I want to cover is how to structure a pitch. An important thing to know is that there is a flow. There is a narrative. And essentially think of it as you're telling a story. You're not just running through a set of slides, right? There is supposed to be a very good flow so that when you are talking and sharing about your idea to your judges, you can draw them in, you can help them understand why your idea is important, and you can end it on with a bang. So there's just 4 parts to cover. First one is you want to hook them in. If you remember the video that you saw earlier, right? He literally screamed to kind of demonstrate how stressed he was with party planning. That's his hook. There's a lot of coverage about how to do story hooks online. Go read up about it. But essentially what you want to do right at the very beginning, right, is to have a very good hook that allows you to draw in the listener or the judges so that they pay attention to what you're going to say next. Benson told me that your pitch timing is 7 minutes. That's quite long, right? And so you want to keep your listeners engaged throughout the 7 minutes. You want to make sure that you start off with very, very well. You want to make sure that you start off with a very good hook and draw them in so that they pay attention to you for the rest of the time. Second thing is you need to sell your vision. So you have your idea. You want to be able to sell to them what is it that you're trying to do, or what problem you're trying to solve, or what's so interesting about your idea, right? And it's very important to be very, very clear and have a lot of conviction about what you're doing. Doesn't matter if the idea didn't come from you. I've seen through pitches, right, where when I go through the pitch, right, and then I hear the pitchers telling me, the reason why I'm doing this is because my friend came up with the idea. That's not very convincing. So you want to be able to convince me and the rest of your judges, right, why we want to listen to you and why you're the right person for the job, or why you're the right person to build this company or this idea. So you need to be very convincing, need to be very clear with what you're communicating throughout your entire pitch. Third thing is to prove it with data. Doesn't matter how well built your vision is, if you can't give me the evidence that this is a really important idea to solve or really important a problem that you want to tackle, it's hard to see why it matters. People come up with ideas every day. There are so many good ideas that people could possibly work on, but why is it that yours is the most pressing? Why is it does yours matter? You can use numbers and data to back this up. I have a lot to share about numbers and data later on, but just remember this is the flow, right? The last thing is badams. So you want to be able to end off your pitch, right, by being able to communicate. If this idea actually exists, right, how will this change your user's life? If you can get your audience to understand that, then that will be fantastic, because then they can walk away from your pitch thinking, yeah, this is a really important invention to have, because essentially this will help a lot of people, or this will help actually dramatically change how certain things will work, and so on and so forth, right? So whenever you see this camera icon, take a screenshot of the slide, because these are very important. If you are sleeping through my entire session, doesn't matter. But whenever you see this camera icon, take a picture of the slide, because it will help you further down the pipeline. Okay. So I covered the narrative and the flow, right? So essentially that's how you want to structure your pitch. But then what should go onto your pitch deck? Because that's the visual thing that people are seeing, right? At the end of the day, when you are pitching and people are looking, your face, right, is actually smaller than your slides. So it becomes very important what you put on your slide, because people are reading it, right? So essentially this is what you want to cover. First thing is your intro, right? And so you want to start with a very strong opening sentence, like that guy who was doing the party planning pitch. You want to start with a very strong opening, whether it's a question or whether it's, giving a big statement about how this problem is so hard to tackle. Like maybe something like 90% of women in the world face this particular problem, or why is the sky so blue? That's something that everyone in the world wonders, but nobody has answers to, and so on and so forth. What is that strong opening statement that you want to share so that it captures people right away, right? Before you go into introducing yourself. So, hi, I'm Joyce. I'm from StartupX, and we help companies make the world a better place. So introduce yourself, your team, and share about what is the big vision that you guys are trying to do. So that forms your entire intro. The second thing is then your problem and your solution, right? So the problem we're solving is blah, 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 blah. This is often, right, in a hackathon, one of the slides that I see is missing from most teams' decks. A lot of people tend to introduce themselves and rush straight into, this is what we're building. This is my idea. But if I don't understand what is the problem they are trying to solve, I don't see why your idea matters. If you can, tell me how big the problem you're trying to solve is, why it matters so much, why it'll impact a lot of people, why this is such a painful problem to have in today's day and age, I will actually pay attention a lot more, because then you demonstrate to me the need for your idea to happen, or the need for someone to build your idea. So being able to communicate the problem, right, comes with being able to tell me, for example, how many people are impacted by this idea, why is the world suffering because nobody has a solution to this, and so on and so forth. So always tell me what the problem you're trying to solve is first. Then you go into the solution. One big mistake that a lot of people tend to do is to share about the features of the solution. I'm building this app. This app will have a map in the app. This app will have a button that will go to here. If you tell me about features, it doesn't actually help me understand what are you doing in the app to solve the problem, right? What I want to hear is features. So what I want to hear is benefits. So what's the difference between features and benefits? Features is essentially, right, the building blocks of your particular solution. So for example, the umbrella, what's the feature of an umbrella? You use heavy duty fabric so that the rain can bounce off the fabric. There is a very sturdy end cap so that, the umbrella won't upend itself. You have a very sturdy hole for the umbrella. These are features. But benefits is you telling me that an umbrella can shelter you from rain or shine. This umbrella is so powerful, if a thunder strike, it will not hit you. That's a benefit. And what you want to do in your pitch deck, right, is tell me about the benefits of your idea, not the features of your idea. Features, I can tell by myself. But benefits, you can tell me what the benefits you're building is and how it solves the problem that you mentioned in the earlier slide. Then it's a lot more important. So another comparison between feature and benefit, right? So the iPods. A feature is telling me that the iPod has 1 gig storage for MP3 files. But a benefit is being able to tell me that now anybody can hold 1,000 songs in their pocket. This is an actual real ad, by the way, by Apple. They actually did sell the iPod by saying you have 1,000 songs in your pocket. You can now put 1,000 songs in your pocket. That is so much more appealing than telling me you got 1 gig storage for your MP3 files. So when you're building your slide, right, think about what are the benefits of each feature. Obviously, when you are thinking about building the features, it's there because you want to solve a certain problem. But the way that you want to communicate it in your pitch deck, right, is to make sure that you're telling me in a way that this is a benefit to the user rather than this is a feature that we're adding in. All right. The second thing also is, aside from putting in your features or aside from putting in your benefits, right, is that if you have a demo, I know it's not necessary and not every team will have a demo, but if you have a demo, this is the best time to showcase your demo and to show people how it works. Okay. The third part is the market and the potential of your idea. So you want to tell me why this is a big opportunity, right? Because TAM, SAM, SOM, I hope you guys are familiar, but basically TAM is total addressable market. So how big is the largest possible market? So maybe I'm doing something with pet food. So the total addressable market is anyone that owns a pet, because anyone that owns a pet will need to buy pet food, right? Then you have serviceable available market. What proportion of the market fits you? Because it's not possible for you to have a pet food product that will conquer the entire market. So maybe a serviceable available market, right, is I'm doing pet food for parrots. So my serviceable available market is basically pet owners who own parrots. That's a much smaller size than the total market of pet owners, right? Then the last one is serviceable obtainable market. And essentially that's people that you can actually reach as a business owner, right? And so maybe my serviceable obtainable market, right, is the fact that I have this pet food factory. I can, produce all these pet food, but I can only ship as far as to within the APAC region. So then my serviceable obtainable market, right, is just parrot owners within the APAC region. If you own a parrot in US, sorry, I can't service you because I can't ship over to you. So you got to be very clear, because a lot of people in their pitch decks, right, they tend to put the entire total addressable market, which easily gets marked down by judges because judges will tell you that's not possible. You can't actually service the entire market. So you need to be very clear what your TAM, SAM, SOM is, so that when you go in and you're building it, right, you're very clear to yourself that you know that the total addressable market is this much, but your serviceable obtainable market is actually this much, and this is who you're targeting. Then you want to talk about who your target market is, right? So when you think about target market, it's good to think of it from an angle, because you're in a hackathon, your idea is, I think, 2 weeks old, right? Essentially, you want to think first of who are your early adopters. And that's essentially the people that you want to target first. So part 4 is your competition or current solutions. In this part, I want you to tell me who your key competitors are. There is no idea that does not have competition. That's one of the big markdowns whenever someone goes into a hackathon pitch, right, and say there is no competitor in this market. That's one way to tell the judges you haven't done enough research or you don't understand your users well enough. So never ever go into a hackathon and say I have zero competition, because you'll easily get marked down. Think about it from the perspective of, even if someone isn't doing the exact same thing that you're doing, if there's already a way that people are addressing that need, then that particular thing is your competition. Recently, someone came to me and told me about the fact that they want to do a skincare solution, right? They want to do personalized skincare. So they told me that their competitors are basically other brands that are doing personalized skincare. But that's actually not true. If I am someone with a skincare problem, I don't use personalized skincare, but I go to, say, maybe a skincare counter in the shopping mall and get my solution from there. Never mind that it's not personalized. That brand is still a competitor, even if it's not personalized, because people are solving their need. So in this case, the need is I need to buy a skincare product, right? I go off the shelf, also fine. So off the shelf are also your competitors, because people who are solving their need are basically also going up to off the shelf instead of personalized skincare. So you got to think from that perspective. Well, how are people solving that particular need? even if it's not the exact way that you're solving that solution for them. And then you want to cover why you're better than your competitors out there. So essentially, what's your competitive advantage? Is it the fact that you are cheaper? So if it's cheaper, then how do you validate that? How do you actually show that? Is it because of the fact that you have a certain feature that you've built in that no other competitors have, and that will change the market so drastically for you? What is that competitive advantage, basically, that puts you at a cut above the rest? Maybe it's the fact that you have a much faster way to execute, or maybe there's a certain new technology that you actually possess, right? Doesn't matter, but you want to, in like, tell me that you know your competition, but you know you can beat the competition because of this, and this. Fifth part is basically your go-to market plan. So here you want to cover your business model, how you acquire customers, and what your product roadmap is. So tell me how you acquire customers, maybe through roadshows, maybe through tie-ups with certain companies and certain brands, maybe just going door to door. But I want to know what your customer acquisition plan is, and then how you'll make money, right? So we make money by basically, revenue stream 1, 2, and 3. Or maybe it's a freemium because I want to acquire more users first, and then I'll charge further down the pipeline. But if you can tell me that this is how my business model will actually run, then it gives me a very perfect picture of the fact that you have been able to visualize the entire shelf life or timeline of your product. Section 6 is basically your traction and your roadmap. So what we've done so far is this, and this. The truth is that you guys are in a hackathon. And so the amount of validation that you will be able to make, right, is not a lot because it's 2 weeks. Your idea is 2 weeks old. And so what you want to share in this particular slide, right, it's not the fact that you have fundraising race or that you have 1,000 users on your platform. But what you want to be able to share with the judges, right, in this case, is to share what you have been able to validate. Maybe it's the fact that you've been able to run a survey with over 200 potential users, out of which over 90% have said that yes, they'll use your product. That's your validation, right? So give me signs that tells me that your product actually has a huge potential and that there's a future for your product. Then tell me what you'll do next. So it's been 2 weeks since we actually came out with this idea. In the next 3 to 6 months, this is what we actually set out to achieve. And these are the milestones that we aim to hit. By the end of 1 year, this is what we aim to be able to do. Maybe get 2,000 users on board the platform, so on and so forth. Or tell me about your product roadmap. So currently we have this, which is a prototype, but by 6 months later, we aim to build a full product, and so on and so forth. So tell me about your traction and your roadmap. And then the last part, very, very important, is your team and your call to action. So when people tend to cover their team, right, they tend to share a lot of different things that don't matter. Essentially, what I want to know is this particular person, why is this person in a team and why do they play an important role? Maybe this person has a lot of domain expertise about this industry, or maybe this person has a lot of context, or maybe this person has built several ventures before and fundraised before. Whatever it is, it's good to demonstrate. Maybe you don't have a pedigree team. That's okay. Then what I want you to tell me is why you guys, maybe for example, are so passionate about this problem and you want to solve it. Oh, because I have a family member that actually faces this problem that we're trying to solve. Then it gives me the idea that, oh, okay, this team is passionate about the idea because it personally affects them. So maybe they don't have a pedigree background, but they know and are well aware about this problem enough, and it hurts them enough for them to want to do something about it. That's also one way to sell your team. Then the last part is your call to action, right? So essentially in a normal investment pitch, there is a call to action, which is a fundraise, right? Or in a sales pitch, you're trying to close a deal. What are you trying to do, or what's your call to action in a hackathon? So think of it from the perspective that you're basically trying to win, right? Your top prize. And so there isn't specifically a call to action per se in a hackathon. But what you want to demonstrate also is what are the resources, or what are maybe possibly the help that you might need, or what are the plans that you intend to do so that you can get to the next milestone. So maybe your milestone is in 3 to 6 months' time. We aim to basically launch our product and acquire our, early adopters. So then one of the call to actions that you can share is, if you're someone who is passionate about this particular problem and you have knowledge about this particular industry, we'll be happy to chat. That could be one way to do your call to action, because we all know in a hackathon idea, you're not really looking for fundraise, right? But you're looking more for people or resources or expertise that can help you take the idea to the next level. So that's one way to frame your call to action. Okay, so essentially, these are the things that you should include in your pitch deck. Some people ask me, there's a lot of things that I need to cover, but I only have a limited number of time to talk through everything. So then how? Doesn't matter. Prepare everything, because some of the things, if you can't cover in time, the judges will ask you Q&A. And if you have the slides that you can go back to during Q&A, that also works out fine. But I heard from Benson you got 7 minutes. 7 minutes is quite a long time. I think you'll be able to cover most of these in the 7 minutes. But if you ask me what to take out, one of the things that I can suggest to take out, for example, is competition. That's always something that you can briefly walk through and then cover in more detail if the judges ask you about it. So if you're really, really pressed for time, then that's something that you can consider taking out. Some other things that I'd like to share with you is basically resources for building beautiful decks. Like I said, right now on AirMeet, right, you can see that my deck is actually bigger than my face. So it matters a lot. I want to see something nice. I don't want to see something that is like cluttered, messy, and so on and so forth. So these are some good resources to help you with building really good decks. They're all free resources, and you should use them as much as you can. If you want to build high fidelity demos, right? So right now, a lot of people do wireframes and all that. There's a lot of tools online for that. But if you want to build high fidelity demos, you can consider this particular platforms. Marvel, InVision. I really love InVision. I really love it when people do InVision. There's Proto.io, even Adobe. There's also, I think, chatbot prototypes platforms that you can use. So it doesn't matter what your solution is. I love it when people are able to build high fidelity demos, because it helps me walk through what they're thinking and what they want a user to go through. But if you're pressed for time, that's fine. But if you have time, this is something to consider. Vectors, icons, and Lottie files, right? For your whatever solutions that you're trying to build. I love it when people animate stuff, just very cute, not necessary, but there's a lot of good icons and vector files that are free online, right? So these are just 6 platforms where you can get very interesting visuals that you can add to your deck to spice it up a little bit more. Okay, so screenshot. Stock images. Stock images do help to bring things to life. Especially you can find images that sort of translate what you're trying to tell your audience. Pexels and Unsplash have a really huge stock image library. You should be able to find something. There's something for everyone, essentially, on Unsplash and Pexels. And the best thing is, all of these platforms that I just mentioned, they're all free. So you can get free images, get free icons, get free prototype platforms to use on all. Basically everything online, you can basically build it. There's no excuse already, because there's just so much free resources for everyone. One thing I didn't add in here, but we do advocate a lot at StartupX, is the fact that there is no code platforms out there that you can use that essentially can solve a lot of your prototype worries. Webflow is one of it. There is also Tilda, and so on and so forth. Figma. These are all very good no-code platforms that you can possibly consider if you're building something tech, right? It'll help the judges to go through something that's a lot more high fidelity, and you can click through links. You can demonstrate how that user experience will be like. That's fantastic. So if you need certain resources, these are all good resources to use. You guys are probably familiar with this guy. He passed away many, many years ago, but he is well known for being one of the best presenters on stage, right? And he has this particular line that he likes to say: people who know what they're talking about don't need PowerPoint. I think essentially, if you look at a lot of Steve Jobs' pitches or whatever he's doing on stage, he very rarely looks at what's happening on the screen behind him. He knows almost everything that's gonna come out, and most of the time, it's either just one image or like one word. He's very to the point, but the whole point of it is he doesn't need to rely heavily on a deck to carry through his pitch. Just like the guy that you saw in the party planning demo earlier, he doesn't really need to refer to his slides to actually get his pitch out. He knows that his slides is there. He knows what he needs to say. It doesn't matter. He's not reading off the slides. He's not trying to cover every single point. The slides are there to substantiate what you, the person, is actually speaking. So it's important that you are able to do that. So I'm going to share with you some tips to wow your judges. And this is just way beyond whatever is on the slide deck or whatever is in your narrative and so on. So I got 10 tips for you. First thing is practice. Practice is really important. I know that you're in a very time-sensitive scenario right now. You only have a couple of days left to basically build your entire pitch. But what you want to do is, as much as possible, try and practice or try and rehearse in your head what you want to cover. You got 7 minutes, right? I see a lot of people who don't rehearse, basically run afoul of their time limit, and they cover only a fraction of what they want to say. If you're not familiar with how long 7 minutes takes, it's good to actually have that rehearsal so that you know, okay, by minute 2, this is how much I should cover. By minute 5, this is how much. If I'm not there yet, I need to rush through my slides, right? So practice, otherwise you'll be like this guy also, okay?
Ladies and gentlemen of the Starr County Republican Party Executive Committee, good evening. And thank you not only for your attendance, but for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Phil Davison, and I am seeking our party's nomination for the position of Starr County Treasurer on November 10th, November of 2010, excuse me. In terms of my background, I am from the village of Minerva, where I'm serving my 13th year of elected service as a Minerva Council member.
Okay, guys, you don't want to be in this sort of a scenario where you're so unfamiliar with what you're saying that you constantly have to refer to something else. Very disruptive, very painful to watch. You don't want that happening. So make sure that you're really, really well rehearsed. I know oftentimes you guys are working all the way to the last minute before you need to submit your slides. That's okay. Decide early on who's going to be your presenter so that that person can rehearse as you guys build the slides and sort of pace themselves and figure out, okay, what are the important points that I want to cover? Okay. Second thing is tell a story. Now, you realize that in my entire session today, I do go back to a lot of different points that I covered earlier on because they're all linked together. And my very first section I covered today was basically what your narrative is, right? And what your flow should be. It's important because I want you to kind of not just be a robot. This slide is about this. This slide I'm going to cover point 1, 2, 3. Next slide, point 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. It's a little bit dead. Go into pitch thinking that you're there to tell a story and to sell something, sell a vision of a dream. Essentially what you want to do is trigger emotions. I'll give you an example. Might be too small for you guys to see, but basically this is a campaign that Adoption Center ran, asking everybody to adopt the dogs that's in the center. And for all their dogs that they put up for adoption, they actually came out with a storyline for every single dog. In this particular case, Otis, they gave a storyline for Otis. Meet Otis. Otis lives in a shelter. He sleeps a lot. There isn't much else to do. When people walk by, Otis opens his eyes and wags his tail. Then they leave. So he eats and waits and remembers the smell of home, scratches from his owner, a squirrel he used to chase. Then he gets tired and sleeps again. When you buy pedigree, we make a donation to help dogs like Otis find loving homes. Help us help dogs. Hey, that's so much better than saying, dog for adoption. Email blah 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 or call blah 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 for more details. Here you're personalizing the subject, right? to a point where people who feel like, oh, I'm a dog lover, I see this, I feel so heart pain, I actually think I want to do something. Tip them off the balance, right? You want them to be able to resonate with what you're trying to pitch or what you're trying to sell, so that they actually feel like this is a real pain point. And right now, if I look at this, there are a lot more sadder stories. You can go Google the whole series. It's quite interesting. But when you're able to sell a story, when you're able to help the audience understand why this is so painful, it actually triggers a lot more heartstrings, right? And it makes people pay attention a little bit more. So if you can do a very good story for whatever, all of you are trying to solve a big challenge, right? And so if you can humanize or basically put in a storyline for that, doesn't matter if it's personal story, a fictional story or whatever, if you can do that, then it actually, really come across much, much stronger. Third thing is engage the audience, ask questions. People are petrified of that, I know. Some people actually would advise not to do any form of engagement or not to ever ask questions. I beg to differ, because I think in such a format, right? Like right now it's very one-dimensional. I'm just talking to you. I'm not really able to interact with you. But even then, there's ways to overcome it so that it does not feel so flat. So this is one of my favorite ways, right? So if you want to go for a question format, right, to basically engage the audience right from the beginning, this is one way you can do it. So try this instead of asking the audience, and of course right now, you're not physically in front of me. I can't do this to you. But instead of asking the audience, show of hands, how many of you have done this before, right? Because the natural reaction for most people, right, is that they wouldn't put up their hands. They'll just sit and, they walk, take a look around and see who else has done it. I don't know if you can do this on the AirMeet platform, right? But usually in a physical thing, I'll ask people to do the opposite. So instead of telling people, okay, show of hands, how many of you have watched the news last night, right? You do the opposite first. You ask everyone to raise their hands first. You come on the stage, you tell everybody, raise your hands. Hey guys, let's put up your hands in the air. Then you ask them, now drop your hands if you have done this before. This is a lot easier because firstly, you already got everybody to do something. All they have to do right now, right, is that if they didn't do it, they just have to drop their hands. In a physical setting, this is something you can try. It also makes everybody, because you tell everybody to put up their hands at the onset, right, it also gets everybody a little bit more engaged with your pitch. So there are little tweaks that you can do to basically engage the audience. And this is just one of the ways to do it. On AirMeet, I don't know, like you figure out, the virtual platforms nowadays are very interactive. I can see all your claps and smiley faces coming up. So maybe do a poll or something. On Zoom, we've done a lot of polls. I've seen people use polls really effectively. So that's something that you can try. On AirMeet platforms, I guess, using the emoji function might be one way to get the audience engaged. Next thing I want you to do is to be able to project confidence when you're pitching. And look at Obama. He's always so poised, so confident, so well put together. Now that you're on a virtual pitch, right? I'm assuming you guys are doing a virtual pitch. The most important thing, right, is make sure that your face is in your screen, within the boundary. I've seen so many people, right, pitch where, their camera is looking at their neck, their face is not facing the camera. There's people in my team who pitch like that, I can only see half their face. I don't want to see that. Give a basic, respect to your judges because they're taking out time to listen to your pitch, right? You want to present yourself as best as possible. You really want to make sure that you are, visible, right? And you look good. I've seen people who look disheveled when they come in and pitch. I know you guys work until very late. You probably hacked until like midnight or 5 a.m. in the morning. But still, whenever you present yourself, I want you to look the best you can because you project confidence in that manner, right? Shirt, make sure you change into something nice. I've seen people wear suits to pitch at a hackathon, which is, I think, very cool. Maybe no need. But still, if you can do that, you leave a good impression on me straight away. So how do you stand out, right? So those are a couple of things, right? So everything from the way that you gesture, to your facial expression, how you carry yourself when you're doing your pitch, to even the way that you carry yourself in your stance. It's not a physical stage, which is fantastic because now all you have to do is make sure that you look good within that square or that rectangle, right? Which everything essentially, even if you're wearing pajamas for bottom half, I also won't know. But what you want to do is make sure that in that particular rectangle, you look good, you pitch well, you gesture well, and your facial expressions are not weird. Make sure you have a clean background, right? I always see people who, we all work from home, so I know there's a lot of constraints. But you're pitching for 7 minutes and your Q&A is 10 minutes. For that 20 minutes of your life, I think you can find a good spot where your background is not cluttered. I've seen people where they're pitching halfway and then, they got like their family members walking around and then shouting in the background. It's just very cluttered and messy and disruptive to your pitch. And you don't want to lose points in that way, right? So make sure you are able to basically carry yourself well on screen. Fifth tip is deliver with a lot of passion. Don't be monotone. You're not a robot, right? You're a real life human with emotions. You should feel so passionately about the problem that you're trying to solve that it comes across in your pitch. People can be high energy, like me right now, I can be very, very high energy. I want to be so excited about what I'm talking about. I accelerate my speech. Or I can be really boring and just talk like this and cover my slides in this manner. And then I go next slide. There's multiple ways to play up, your expressions and your emotions. So do it because you want to make sure that you deliver well to your judges and you want to make sure that you're very, very memorable. I love the party planning guy so much because there's nobody, right, that I've shown that video clip to, right, that will ever tell me that that's a bad pitch. His energy is so high level from day one, from the first minute, that I'm just so engaged and I want to watch it all the way to the end to see what else is in his pocket, It's like Xiao Ting Tang, I want to be able to see what other tricks he's going to pull. And so my suggestion, right, is find a person in a team that is most animated, that, is able to carry across themselves very well and get that person to train and deliver the pitch. Because that will actually leave an impression. I heard 45 teams fighting in this hackathon. 45 is a lot of teams. So make sure you are able to stand out. Right? Some styles, when I say high energy, a lot of people tend to think of Tony Robbins. I don't know if this audience knows Tony Robbins, but Tony Robbins is this really, this guy that goes on the stage and then he's very energetic and he's like, shout, you clap for me or whatever. He's just shouting on stage all the time. He's super tall. I think he's almost 1.91 meters or whatever. Very big. And so he dominates on stage, right? Super high energy. You don't have to necessarily be like that. You could be like Steve Jobs, right? Very poised, very articulate. He pauses at the right time. He talks at the right moment. He shares just one or two things per slide that is meant to leave a big impression on people. You can be very slow, also can, but put in the right pauses so that you can enunciate your words better. You can emphasize on certain points better. That's another style. You can be like the Dalai Lama. Very, very, very warm conversation, very nurturing, very, very intellectual. So there are many, many different styles to how you can present your pitch, right? These are just 3 examples, but essentially when you look at what idea you're trying to present, of course, party planning energetic works, right? If you can't be like the Dalai Lama and talk about party planning, you basically bore people off, right? But you can think about what is the idea that you have and what style actually might suit it better, then work from there. Don't overload your slides. No busy slides. We're not here to do a report for NUS, okay? We're here to pitch to your judges. So don't put slides where, there are like 100 words on the slides. There is like I know some of you like to use font size 6, make everything tiny so that you can squeeze as much as possible. You're not doing a cheat sheet for your exam, right? You're trying to basically sell an idea. So don't make it too busy. The 10-40 rule. The first 10 slides of your presentation should contain no more than 40 words. I really, really, like you can see right behind in the background, Steve Jobs slides basically only has 2 words. It's true! Exclamation mark. You only want to convey the most succinct of ideas on your slides, because then it really captures the essence of what you're trying to share. If you squeeze 1,000-word essay on your slides, nobody's going to be able to see anything anyway. And you're just going to lose their attention after a while. And if I have so much things on my slide, right, nobody will hear me speaking also, because everyone will be too busy trying to finish reading in the time that I'm talking. So don't have busy slides. Think about what's the most important word that you want to put there, or most important idea, or most important, I guess, a point, and just keep it to that. Keep it very short and sweet. Picture says 1,000 words. If you can use a picture to represent what you want to carry across, use that instead of putting words, right? So let's say I want to talk about competitive advantage. I would, you can choose to present it in this way, like essay, right? Or you can choose to present it in this way. Use icons, small text, bold the headers so that you know exactly what you want people to read. It's a lot easier to read as compared to this. So remember again, you're not doing an essay for schoolwork. You're trying to pitch an idea. And the way you want to pitch an idea is to make sure that your ideas and messages really get across to people in the right manner. Number 8, use stats. Use numbers to your advantage. Use data. Today, someone shared with me a very good example. I'm going to share with you shortly. But take a look at this. So this is one of the lines from Tim Cook, right? He was sharing this in an interview. And he wanted to demonstrate how powerful the Mac is to Apple. And so he shared this. The Mac makes up 33% of Apple's business. And you think, oh wow, that's pretty exciting, right? Because Mac makes a lot of product. They have their MacBooks, they have their watches, they have their app store, they got their accessories. It's actually quite impressive that the Mac makes up 33% of Apple's business. Now, it'll be more impressive if I tell you that the 33% is actually worth $22 billion. That really puts things into perspective, right? So now you're not thinking of, just a product as 1/3 of someone's business. But the fact that the Mac itself, the entire product line, is worth $22 billion. That's more money than you and I will ever see in our lifetime, right? So that really puts things into perspective. Suddenly you're like, wow, shit, that's a lot of money. Then this is the next thing he said. If the Mac business is a standalone company, it would be number 110 on the Fortune 500 list. A product that is 1/3 of Mac's business can be a standalone company on its own and be number 110 on the Fortune 500 list. That tells you really how huge the entire Mac business is. So if you're able to use the right data to paint that story and tell people how important this particular thing is, it really helps people understand a lot better, right? Because when someone says the Mac makes up 33% of Apple business, you won't think like, oh shit, that's a really huge thing. Until you realize that shit, the Mac alone can be a company, and if it's a company, it will be number 110. Biggest companies in the entire world. And that's just one product line from Apple. Suddenly it puts into perspective how huge Apple is. I mean, we all know Apple, right? So I'm going to give you an example which someone shared with me today, which I think is really, really fabulous. Consider this piece of data. Selangor's population is 6.57 million, and their COVID cases to date is 161,000. If you want to use data to your advantage, and you want to be able to tell a story, there are multiple ways that you can use this data. So this is this person who built this entire series, I think, was very, very smart. And the way that they manipulate the data and evoke certain emotions. So what are some headlines, right? With this two data alone, first one is that I can make you worried. Selangor has more COVID cases as of today than the entire population of Seychelles. For reference, there is 161k COVID cases in Selangor, and there's 90k for Seychelles population, right? So suddenly you're like, holy shit, that's way too many cases. Because just the number of cases in one state alone is actually the entire population, it's more than the entire population of a city, or of a particular, is that a state or city? Okay, never mind. But suddenly it puts things into perspective, right? It tells you that there's really a lot of cases. Makes people worried. I can make you relief. Despite the number of cases today, after over a year of COVID-19, the number of people who contracted COVID in Selangor is still less than 3% of Selangor's population. 161k over 6.57 million. It's only 3%. Suddenly you realize, oh shit, that's not a lot. That's just 3% of the population. Actually, that's still quite okay lah, right? So how you use the data matters. I can create urgency. 1 in 40 people in Selangor has contracted COVID. How many people do you pass by in a week? Take a look at your Trace Together app. Today, okay, like if you never go out, maybe it says like 100 plus, 200 plus, 300 plus. But out of every 40 people you meet in Selangor, at least one person has contracted COVID. Are you scared now? Because if they open their Trace Together app in Selangor, it probably says that, you know, on an average day out, they probably meet like 800 to 1,002 people. Now that's quite scary because that's at least like don't know how many people that might potentially contract COVID that you'll be passing by every day. So it makes you a little bit more urgent, right? Like shit, how many people that I actually come across and how many of those actually might be an actual real case? Should I get myself checked? So you can create urgency. I can create calmness. 1 in 40 people in Selangor has contracted COVID. However, it will statistically take around another 80 days for it to become 2, even with today's rates. Oh, that's okay. That's not that bad. That doesn't seem as scary right now, right? So another 80 days for it to become 2 out of every 40 people. That's still quite okay. 80 days is almost 3 months. So what's the takeaway? It's the same number that she uses in every single one of these examples. The numbers are the same, the math is correct. It's just a matter of how you interpret and phrase it, right? And think about it also, the way that you phrase it, right? So in the calm example, right, it's 1 in 40 people in Selangor has contracted COVID. It will take around 80 days for it to become 2. You can tweak it the other way around and say that it takes 80 days to make 1 in 40 to become 2 in 40. It sounds safe, but if you think of it from another angle, right, that means the number of cases in Selangor will double in just 80 days. So from 161k now, it will become 320k in just 80 days. Now that's also quite scary. So the way that you play with the data and the way that you play with the story, right, actually matters. Why am I telling you this? Because when you use data for your pitch, and think about it, right, so total addressable market, you probably need the data. What you validate, you probably need the data. The way that you tweak the data can help you frame your story better. Is it cheating? It's not, but, you know, essentially when you want to present data, think about how you can present it from the best angle possible so that it actually helps you to frame your story better. Whether you want to create more urgency or you want to create greater concern for the judges to think like, shit, this is really important, you can use the data to help you tell that story. So whatever data you find, think about what's the best way to present it in your slide deck and how you can use it to create the kind of emotions that you want your audience to feel. Number 9, take away their ammo, be your biggest critic, don't give them any excuses. So this is essentially, right, prepping in advance what you think the judges will basically ask you, right? Sun Tzu says, know your enemy, right? 知己知彼，百战百胜. So essentially what you want to do, first thing is know who you're pitching to. You are not doing a sales pitch. You're not asking someone to buy a product from you. You are trying to win a hackathon. You're trying to present your ideas in the best way to your judges, right? So the second thing is understand your judging criteria. Too little people, when going to a hackathon, actually consider their judging criteria when they pitch. Your judging criteria tells you all the things that you need to know because your judging criteria, right, essentially in a hackathon, this is how it works. Your judges have maybe 4 or 5 criteria. They tell you how to score, and essentially you see, okay, if you cover this part, I will score you 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? That's how it works. I run a lot of hackathons. I know that's how it works. If you can cover this point, and it tells me that, yeah, enough thing is covered for me to give you a high score. You get your points. Right? So look very closely at your judging criteria and figure out what is it that the judges are trying to score you on. Feasibility, validation done, how well I executed my idea, and so on and so forth. You have your judging criteria. Go and read up and figure out what are the things that I need to do to score my points well. Last thing you can do is judge your own pitch and ask WWJD, not what would Jesus do, but what would your judges do, right? Or maybe not what will your judges do, but what will your judges ask? Essentially look at it from a judge's lens, right? And think, okay, if I'm a judge, on this particular slide, what would I want to ask the team? And if you can map that out right, then you'll be well prepared for your Q&A. You'll be able to have a comeback for everything. Some of the really good teams that I've seen at hackathons are so well prepared with this part that whenever someone asks something, they can go to their annexes right on their slide and show that, yeah, we've thought about this. This is the data, this is the information, and this is how we'll solve this problem that you raise. It gives the confidence to the judges, right, that this team has really really thought out very well through what exactly they're trying to do and covered all bases. That's what you want to be able to do. So evaluate your own slides, right, like a critic. Think about what the judges are likely to ask, and then try and cover those points. Like I said, you only have 7 minutes in your pitch. So you may not be able to cover everything. Put it in your annexes. So the whole point of the annexes, right, is so that when someone asks you a question that you weren't able to cover in that 7 minutes, that 10 minutes can help you do that, right? Your 10 minutes Q&A. And if you have the slides prepped for it, the judges will know that, yeah, this team very well prepared. Last thing is keep track of time. Just like me, I'm going to end right on the dot at 4 p.m. There are three tips that I'll give to you. First one is don't repeat what is on your slides. People can read already whatever is there. You don't have to repeat it again. Whatever you want to show in your slide, make sure you're emphasizing on a point or sharing a little bit more detail, elaborating, but you don't need to go back and read whatever is on your slide already. Don't need to waste time. Second thing, very controversial, and a lot of you will probably groan after hearing this, is don't have more than one pitcher per team. Essentially, right, I've seen teams really crumble when they try and, right now it's even virtual, it's even worse, right? Because one person is sharing a slide deck, running through 1/3 of it. Then they say, okay, I'm going to pass on to my next team member. Next team member tries and, okay, they have to stop, share. Next person has to reshare, shift it to the right slide, then start. In between, you lose time, right? Or even worse, if someone is sharing slides and then another person is pitching, and I hate to hear this in a pitch where the person goes, okay, yeah, Brendan can go next slide. Next slide, next slide. It's just disruptive. Keep it to one pitcher. The more people you have to pitch, the higher possibility of failing. Right now, you have people that have unstable Wi-Fi, you got people that got like messy backdrops, whatever it is. Keep it to the person that has the highest success of putting through a pitch that can really, impress the judges. You don't want to give everybody an opportunity, be fair. Everybody must say must say at least 1.5 minutes. It just doesn't work that way. Just make sure that you put out the person who can pitch best. Worse if you have very different pitching capabilities across the entire team, right? Some can pitch really well, some are not that good, and then you sell yourself short because people can see the level of difference in the team. Put out the best person, right? Person with the best showmanship on stage, and let that person do his job. Third thing is have a timer in front of you so that you know if you're running short on time, you know whether your 7 minutes is up, you know whether your 5 minutes is up, so on and so forth. Be very clear exactly how much you cover. And one important thing, Q&A also, time yourself. Some people, the judges ask one question for Q&A, they spend the next 3 minutes answering that question. Don't do that. Answer as succinct as possible so that you can give more time to the judges to ask more things and get more grounds covered. Okay, so with that, go forth and be awesome. Really looking forward to the pitches 5 days from now. I know there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I think you guys can do it. Hopefully you can use some of these takeaways today and really make your pitch a good one for your pitch day. Okay, feel free to connect with me. If you need to drop me an email, if you need to ask me for more tips, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Also, feel free to check out our website, StartupX. We're always hiring. Any of you who are interested in internship or would like to learn more about working in a startup ecosystem enabler, feel free to connect with me. All right, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joyce. Thanks for the amazing presentation, guys. I really do have to emphasize, if you weren't paying attention during Joyce's presentation, please go and watch the recording. I only wish we had such an opportunity for last year's hack because it covered a lot of material and a lot of tips and tricks. So I hope everyone was paying attention during Joyce's presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw there's one Q&A. Someone asked about whether Q&A should be done by one person as well. Q&A, feel free to bring on the person that can best explain it. So you can have multiple people answering Q&A. But just think about it, plan it beforehand, right? Okay, if someone asks this question on this particular slide, who should be the one answering it? So you don't go like, I've seen people arrow their teammates, right? Okay, Brendan will do the Q&A. And Brendan's like, and then he gets so flustered. So make sure you plan that beforehand.
Yeah, fantastic tip. And with that, I think unless there's any more Q&A, we'll probably close off the session and return the time to everyone in the session. Yeah. So once again, we'd just like to extend our thanks to Joyce for joining us today and giving us such an amazing presentation once again. And yeah, so rounds of applause. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, and with that, we'll feel free to close off the session. So thanks for joining us. We hope you had a lot of takeaways. And we look forward to seeing you at our next session, which will be the discussion panel on the future of health tech, occurring Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Yeah. So thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you on Wednesday then. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.